What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today we need to take ourselves a little bit of a look at some new Black Digimon cards. You see, there was a video popped up on the official YouTube channel yesterday, and it's gone and shown 5 new Black Digimon, and woke up this morning, saw that there were a bunch of new Black Digimon to talk about. So what do? What I always do in this situation, I go straight to my computer and we make a video about these new Black Digimon. Now, there are a bunch to talk about, so let's get rolling. And we're going to be quite quick with the first couple. We have got ourselves a couple of vanilla Digimon. Now, first of all, we've got Numemon. Now, Numemon as a level 4 is quite cheap. Free cost to play normally is good for a level 4. That's what we expect from a level 3. 1 cost to evolve is cheap for a level 4. We expect 2. And 3,000 power is terrible for a level 4. We expect at least 4,000 power on a level 4. So quite frankly, it is cheap and cheerful. And look, sometimes what you really want to do is you want to get up evolving. A card that's going to come up quite a bit more as we go through this video is Diaboromon. That really is the headline Black 6 card we've seen, level 6 we've seen. It is a phenomenal card, and this just gets you to Diaboromon more quickly. By having a free cost to play normally or a 1 cost to evolve, that's where you get there. It's a vanilla card, there's no skill, and 3,000 power is low for a level 4. There really is nothing else going for it. And to be fair, I don't believe there were any level 4s that we actually saw in New Evolution that were down this low. No, I'm lying to you. The Angemon was actually down at 3,000 power, but then again, the Angemon was a really good card with really good skills, so I don't think that's a particularly fair comparison. It's weak, ladies and gentlemen. It's extremely weak, but it's cheap. Speaking of not very good, but it's cheap, Hagurumon. Now, to be fair, that's got 3,000 power, which is standard for a level 3, but it has no skills. It's a 0 cost to evolve normally, which is standard for level 3s, but it's a 2 cost to play from your hand. And it really is as simple as that. That's why you're playing this card. It is cheap to play from your hand. I talk about this in a lot of videos, but given that you can either hatch an egg or move an evolved egg, as in level 3 or above when you've gone up through, from your raising area to your battle area during your turn, it means realistically you're actually evolving up into a level 3 1 in every 2 turns. That means you need to play a whole bunch of cards, level 3s, just from your hand, and this is a 2 cost. It's nothing more than that. I mean, the power is fine. The power isn't embarrassing. The power is about what we would expect. But make no mistake about it, you are playing this purely on the basis that it is a 2 cost. I have no issue with this, incidentally. That seems absolutely fine by me, but that's why we're playing it here. Make no bones about it. It is the cheapest we've seen in terms of Black Digimon. Now, our translations here are coming from Chosugoi over on Facebook, and if we start off with ones that actually need translation, we've got Guardromon. Now, Guardromon, the image I actually cut out of the video has DP 7000 on it in big letters, and I went to find a better image of it, and then I went, no, you know what, that actually says what we need to say perfectly. It's a blocker. It's a 7,000 power blocker, which is more powerful than your average ones that we saw in the starter decks. Things like Chrysalimon coming in with 6,000 power. It's a good thing. As for the cost, 5 cost to play normally is not the lowest we've seen for a level 4, but it's not offensive. It's on the higher side of normal. And 2 cost to evolve normally is what we would expect from a level 4. But it's a blocker. When your opponent attacks, you may rest it to redirect the attack towards this Digimon, protect your other Digimon running around. Having that extra 1,000 power over some of the other blockers we've seen, I'll be honest with you, is pretty gosh darned awesome. So yeah, I am absolutely loving it. I think it's really, really cool. Except it can't attack. It's got a skill that says, on your turn, this Digimon cannot attack. Now, to be fair, with stuff like Chrysalimon, attacking was something we did very rarely anyway, because when you attacked, you had to give up 2 memory. This has the same cost as all of those ones from the starter decks, plus an extra 1000 power, but instead of only being able to attack if you're willing to give up 2 memory, we instead default to the even more brutal you can't attack. It's not the end of the world, I suppose, because you are largely going to be using it as a blocker, and maybe in that regard it's fine, but Guardromon's got blocker and reboot and is an 11,000. Now, I know it's significantly more expensive, I'm not silly in that regard, but the fact that you can reboot, make yourself active on your opponent's active phase, and you've got blocker, means you make yourself active on your phase attack, make yourself active on your opponent's phase block, and round we go. That's the kind of card here that I look at and go, ooh, nice. This one, I mean, look, blockers are good, you're gonna need some blockers, and it's not like you can rely on having your Guardromon out nice and early in the game, but I'll be honest with you, I'm not digging this. I would rather have something else. I mean, we've seen Andromon as a black blocker as well. 7 cost to play normally, 3 cost to evolve, level 5. It will be fine, and maybe it's one you put in your deck hoping to never need to use it, but knowing that it's there, so if you do need a blocker that's a little bit cheaper, that comes out a little bit earlier, you're fine. But I think that is about the only reason you're playing it here. I'm not in love with this, if I'm honest with you. I like having more blockers, and there will be some builds where you whack it in because you want a level 4 blocker, and that will do quite nicely. But I think that's the only reason I'm digging it anyway. But the good news is, ladies and gentlemen, we've got a level 5, which is way more exciting. Infermon. Now, in terms of the cost of Infermon here, it's not bad. As a level 5, 7 cost to play normally is about what we would expect. 3 cost to evolve is what the vast majority of level 5s have. And 7,000 power is not bad. We've seen plenty of level 5s with more, we've seen plenty of level 5s with less. Stats-wise, it's about what you would expect. But it's got a skill that says, on your turn, the cost to evolve this Digimon into Diaboromon from your hand is reduced by 1. Unlike so many of these black cards we've seen so far, this is basically saying, look mate, you're playing it in a Diaboromon deck. This is there for Diaboromon, and that's what you're using it for, that's why you're playing it. It is unashamedly, unabashedly a Diaboromon card. But the thing is, Diaboromon is one of the most ridiculous broken cards we've seen in the game so far, so I'm totally okay with that. It's a 4 cost to evolve normally, which is quite high, but then again, if you're evolving from Infermon, then it's only a 3 cost to evolve, and it's a 14 cost to play normally, which seems prohibitively expensive. But when you attack, you literally play a new Digimon, a Diaboromon token, which is basically a new 3,000 power Digimon, and when you would be destroyed in battle, whether that is being attacked or in a security, you survive. And that's kind of awesome. So Diaboromon is just ridiculously good, and this helps you to evolve up into it more easily. And it's not the only unashamedly Diaboromon card we've seen so far. One of the Black Digimon that we've seen a couple of days ago was Numemon, and it says if you have a Digimon as an inheritable skill with the same name as this Digimon gets 2,000 extra power. But when you play a token, that will count as a Digimon with the same name as Diaboromon, so that's kind of ridiculous. We also saw one of the first cards we actually saw from Black was Hagurumon, that's got an inheritable skill that when you play another Digimon with the same name as this Digimon, you get to draw 1 card. So every time you attack with Diaboromon, and you deploy one of these tokens, which in and of itself is a ridiculously good skill, you also get to draw a card. Diaboromon's starting to look redonk, and this is just one more trick it's got. And if that wasn't enough lovely Black Digimon action for one morning, how about Giga Cannon or Giga Cannon? It's got a skill. Now, it is not the cheapest we've ever seen, unfortunately. It does come in as a 6 cost. Not terribly expensive, but not terribly cheap. And it's just got De-Evolve 4, Devolution 4, however you want to phrase it. It basically says that what you do is remove 4 evolution sources from one of your opponent's Digimon. And as the security, you activate the card's main effect. Devolution 4 basically says, let's say you got a level 6. You remove the level 6, the level 5, the level 4. Now, I don't believe you can remove level 3 with Devolution here, because then that would put it down to a Digitarma. You are discarding from the top, I should say, and you can't have a Digitarma on the field. Similarly, we've seen before that this cannot be used to actually destroy Digimon, but let's say an Omegamon comes out. This would take Omegamon from Omegamon, or Omnimon, depending how you want to phrase it, all the way down to your level 3. You'd get rid of level 7, 6, 5, and 4, leaving the 3. You cannot use this to destroy Digimon, at least that's what we've seen on other cards with this skill, and you cannot use it to take down to a Digitarma, because you can't have a Digitarma in play. You can have it in the raising area, but you cannot actually have it in play in the battle area. But basically what you're doing here is just getting rid of the higher levels of your opponent's Digimon. And they do go to the trash, so they can evolve up again if they're willing to spend all the memory to do so, and they've got the relevant cards in their hand. But honestly, I'm not a huge fan of this card, because I just think we can do better. I think we've seen better versions of this card for other colors. Nail Crusher for one more comes along and gets rid of all the evolution sources of one of your opponent's Digimon. And I do understand that they do, they still keep the level 6 or whatever the highest one is, but they lose all the other tricks associated with it, which I think a lot of the time is a better option. We've seen Glorious Burst already from Ultimate Power, which I know is a 9 cost, but it just lowers your opponent's Digimon's power by 12,000 and is reduced by 1 for every one of your yellow tamers in play. So I'd rather have that card, if it's all the same to you. Trump Sword just destroys an opponent's active Digimon, and that's a 7 cost. Gaia Force from the starter deck just destroys any Digimon in your opponent's side of the field, and that's an 8 cost. And I know some of these are slightly more expensive, but I prefer them. I'm not a huge fan of this card, because if they haven't evolved, this does nothing. You're still leaving them a Digimon on the field, and it's not a particularly cheap card to begin with. That's not to say it's terrible, and certainly as a black option it's fine, but there are other options I've seen in other colours that I like a bit more. And just as I'm sitting down, I just start rendering the video, and the cards of the day come out. Now, one of them is Infermon, a card we've talked about in this very video, but there is in fact another new card, and it's another black card, and it seems weird to upload a video on 5 new black cards when a 6th new black card, which fits beautifully into this discussion, has also been revealed, and I leave it till later. That sounds wrong, ladies and gentlemen. That sounds wrong. So, Chrysalimon then. What do we find? It's a level 4, which makes sense. We needed one to evolve into Infermon. It's a 5 cost to play normally, 2 cost to evolve, both of which are fine for level 4s. 4,000 power, which again is fine for level 4. Nothing particularly controversial. The 5 cost to play normally, I suppose, is slightly higher than average, but not in a way that's going to offend anyone. But it really is the skill here. It's got an inheritable skill whereby on your turn, when you play another Digimon with the same name as this Digimon, you gain 1 memory. Oh, this gets broken. This gets broken, ladies and gentlemen. This is starting to get silly at this point, right? Now, when we first saw Keramon, I said, well, maybe not. Maybe it doesn't work like that. Maybe you're not going to be able to draw a card every time you deploy a Diaboromon token when you attack with Diaboromon. Now, over time, I have learned that I was in fact wrong, and we've seen linguistical arguments and translation arguments and all of that. But the biggest argument for me is they keep making cards that are explicitly there for Diaboromon. Like, it's got to be there for Diaboromon. So now, and again, if you're playing a Diaboromon deck, this is an absolute no-brainer here. I see no reason why you wouldn't play this in a Diaboromon deck. That makes no sense to me whatsoever. So what we essentially got here is your level 6 Diaboromon, you attack, you deploy a Diaboromon token, and to be fair, right, before we saw all these inheritable skills, we were still saying that Diaboromon looks amazing because you can deploy all of these tokens, not to mention the fact that it's a 14 cost to play normally, so you are almost certainly going to evolve into Diaboromon rather than play it from your hand. Remember, there is a hard cap of 10 memory, so if you've got 3 or fewer memory, you literally can't play it regardless. So what you do is you attack with Diaboromon, and then all of a sudden, Chrysalimon comes in and goes, oh, mate, good news. You gain an extra memory. And you're like, oh, well, that's quite cool. And then Agumon comes along and goes, oh, yeah, sorry, don't forget, you also get to draw an extra card. And cards and memory are the best things in the game. They are the resources. That's what you need. If you can get extra memory and extra cards every time you attack, things are starting to get a little bit dumb, silly, good. Plus, you also then get the power boost from Numemon, and things are starting to look a little bit silly. Bearing in mind, we've got ways of making it active. I mean, what I said before, when I talked about Diaboromon, was I reminded you that Dimension Scissor is a thing. Now, I know it's a green option card, you'll need a green Digimon in play, I'm sure you'll cope. And essentially what Dimension Scissor says is, every time you take down a Digimon by battle, you make it active. So let's say your opponent's got 4 resting Digimon. You play a Dimension Scissor. You then get to attack 5 times with Diaboromon. 4 against the resting Digimon and then 1 against your opponent's security. You will draw 5 cards with Agumon, because Agumon does not have anything there to say it's limited to once during your turn. You will gain 5 memory with Chrysalimon, because there is nothing in there to say it's limited to once during your turn, which incidentally is extremely strange. I mean, on a little bit of a side note here, you can look at stuff like the Patamon from the starter decks, which give you extra memory when you reduce an opponent's Digimon's power down to 0 and destroy it. You gain a memory that is limited to once during your turn. So that's like 5 extra cards and 5 extra memory, and that's before we remember that you're also deploying 5 tokens, and even if you would get destroyed, I mean, here's a ridiculous thing, right? Let's say you would get destroyed by that security Digimon, you just delete one of the tokens instead and you stay alive. Diaboromon is starting to look silly, and, I mean, to be fair, right, we looked at Infermon to reduce the cost of evolving. That's awesome. But this combined with Agumon just gets dumb. Alright, back to the usual outro, shall we? I had to edit this in after I'd finished the video. I was never going to make it sound seamless, so I figured, you know what? Let's just be honest. But I'd like to know what you think. So let me know in the comment section, would ya? Go nuts, be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at the Wossy. That's where we talk Digimon and a bunch of other games. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCGradio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all kinds of fun stuff. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching Wossy Plays.